All right, good evening. This is the um, Psycho MMA fan, Big Mike. I'm coming at you. There's a lot going on um, over the next week. As you know, it's International Fight Week, and the main event of the weekend, the coming weekend, is Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko. It should be a barn burner. I'll be giving you my picks on some of the main fights this week. You want to take note. I was pretty on the last time, and I just hit those upsets right on the nose. So if you're a betting man, which I hope you're not, because you should not be gambling, you may want to listen to my picks. All right, now we have. On Friday, we have the Ultimate Fighter finale. The main event is still blank. It's to be announced, but obviously it's the two finalists from the Ultimate Fighter finale. And the main event, which is one of the main fights on the card, is the number 5 ranked welterweight in the world, Michael Johnson, versus Justin Gaethje. It's going to be his first UFC bout. Again, I'm expecting fireworks. And there's also another fight we should be looking at on this card. And this up-and-coming lightweight name is Diakase. I hope I'm saying it right. He's fighting Close. That should be a barn burner. I saw the Casey fight earlier this year, and he's definitely on the rise. He's just like Kevin Lee. He's a hard worker. He's athletic. He's fast. He's got self-confidence, and he's definitely one of those up-and-coming UFC fighters to watch. We haven't heard a lot about him because he's on the European circuit of the UFC, but they brought him over and they put him third as the third highest ranked fight on this card for the Ultimate Fighter finale on July 7th, which is Friday. And he's definitely one to watch. I'm definitely picking him over Close. He's going to be the favorite. And you're going to see what I'm talking about. If you look at his past two fights, you're going to see what I see. There's so much potential. He makes me just as excited as when I watch Kevin Lee fight. Now, the Michael Johnson Justin Gaethje fight. Justin Gaethje is 17-0, while Michael Johnson is 18-11. Now, there's certain things about this fight that really stands out, and I just want to hit it real quickly because I'm not gonna beat you over the head with my picks. Justin Gaethje has no losses. Okay, I really think at this stage of the game, unless you're John Jones, no losses is not necessarily a good thing. Okay, when you look at the level of competition that Michael Johnson has faced, now I'm going to just browse here because again, I don't want to bore you, but let me just run you through the level of competition that Michael Johnson has been exposed to. He's fought Tony Ferguson. He won. He's fought Danny Castillo. He also won that. He lost against Miles Jury. Okay. Michael Johnson won against Joe Lauzon. Okay. He also won against Gleison Tibur. Okay. He also won against Melvin Gillard. And he also won against Enson Barboza. And we know the animal that Enson Barboza is. Now, he's taken a couple of recent losses to Darvish, Diaz, and of course Khabib. Khabib gave him the beatdown. But he do have a win against Dustin Pierre, and we know the animal that Dustin Pierre is. So, Michael Johnson has 11 losses, but his level of competition is such that you can disavow some of those losses because he's fighting the best fighters in the world all the time. Now, I'm going to take a look at Justin Gaethje's past opponents. Some opponents I've never heard of. There's this one opponent, and again, I did my research on Justin Gaethje. I wanted to give him a fair shot, or whether I was going to pick him or not to win. I looked at some of his past fights, and in one of his fights, he defended his lightweight championship when he was in the World Series of Fighting against Nick Noel. Now, let me tell you something. I am the least biased person in the world, but if you watch that fight against Nick Noel has one arm. He was fighting at a disadvantage. Me personally, I don't know why this fight was even booked. I don't know how it got sanctioned. And I don't know how a fight with you're fighting against a guy with one arm can go past the first round. All right. Now, Justin Gaethje obviously won the bout in the third round, and I felt bad watching the fight. It was a slow beatdown. I thought it would have been better if it was a quick beatdown, but it was a slow beatdown. And again, his opponent Nick Noah had one arm, and he had trouble beating this guy. He's also fought guys like Luis Palomino. He also won against Melvin Gilliard. That was a split. That was a non-title bout because Melvin missed weight. He's won against Brian Foster, and most recently he's won against Luis Firmino. Now, these are names that, again, I haven't heard of most of these guys that he has won against. I thought, I'm just being fair. I thought that Justin's level of competition does not compare to Michael Johnson's level of competition. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when I picked Tim Bosch to beat Johnny Hendricks. Tim Bosch is what you would call a B-level fighter. A B-level fighter fights the who's of who's. You're almost like a guardian of the gate. If you can beat this guy, then we can move you up in competition. And they set up Justin Gaethje with kind of a gatekeeper fighter, a fighter who has, double-digit losses, but he's a solid fighter. Just going on their level of competition, I don't see how Johnson loses this bout. Again, he's fought the who's of who's. He's beaten some of them. I just don't think Justin's level of competition will suit him well in this fight. Is he UFC material? We're going to find out after this fight. But I just don't see him winning against Michael Johnson, a B-level fighter. And he's a high B-level. Michael Johnson is a high B-level fighter. Wow. I just don't see how Justin can win against Michael Johnson. And I hope I explained that right. I do want to move on. I only have about 6 more minutes. I do want to talk about the Amanda Nunes fight against Valentina Shevchenko. It's a barn burner. This is the second time they've met. The first time they met was in a non-title bout, which was only 3 rounds. This one is going to be 5 rounds. I don't think Shevchenko is going to make it out of the second round. I got to pick my girl Amanda Nunes for a number of reasons. First of all, let's talk about the challenger. Okay, the challenger, Valentina, she is coming off of some great wins. She beat Holly Holmes, and I really thought, and I'm gonna just be honest, I think that Valentina is striking at the right time. Okay, she's on a nice winning streak. Her last loss is to the champion, Amanda Nunes. I just think that, when you really put it, when you really put it, um, you know, into perspective, she is the number one contender. She beat the woman who head kicked Ronda Rousey into oblivion, and then, okay, all right, she armbarred, she armbarred someone who was talking a lot, and she silenced her. She silenced her very, very quickly. So and I really thought that she really showed her all around game when she beat Pena. All right, and that was a tremendous, tremendous win for Shevchenko. I just don't think she has the power or the boxing skills to compete with a Nunes who is, at this point in her career, she understands what she's good at. She understands what makes her great, and that's her striking, that's her boxing, that's her kickboxing style. And I just don't see how my girl doesn't win this by either late first round knockout or early second round knockout. I just don't see. Just the build in itself. Shevchenko is a smaller woman, and a lot has changed since they first met. Amanda Nunes is not the same fighter, and I just see all the pros going into Nunes' favor. Now, there is another barn burner on this card, and that's the Son of God, or the Soldier of God, Yoel Marrero fighting Robert Whitaker. It's a barn burner. It's a barn burner for a number of reasons. First of all, this is for the interim middleweight title of the world. So we could just take away that interim from this bout. It's really for the middleweight championship of the world, because Michael Bisping has resorted to avoiding everyone that can beat him, and he's just sitting at that Fox desk claiming that he has knee problems and knee injury, and he's not defending the belt. He's defended the belt once in over a year. I kind of feel bad for Michael Bisping, because he was always that kind of fighter that would never say no to anyone, that would go out there and give them his best. If he would come off the couch, he would be able to make weight, because he was never really that far above weight, and and he would go in there and give his best. And since he won the title, and he went up against Dan Henderson, and that, let me be honest with you, I was rooting for Michael Bisping, because I'm an underdog kind of guy. I always root for the underdog, and he barely won that bout. If it would have went to Dan Henderson, you can't really cry foul, because it was that close. I just thought that Michael Bisping would be more of a defense of a champion that would go out and defend his belt. Now, with that said, we still have a barn burner. We have a 40-year-old world-class wrestler turned mixed martial artist against an up-and-coming mixed martial artist in Robert Whitaker. And there's a number of things in the outcome of this bout. Okay, for Robert Whitaker, let's say he loses this bout. He's still young. He can rebuild himself. He can make other fights and be successful, and probably get another shot at a middleweight title. And of course, he always had the option of going back down to 170. A loss for Yoel Romero, we're not sure where he goes. He automatically becomes that 40-year-old gatekeeper, just like Anderson Silva. Let's put the up-and-comer up against Romero. If they can beat him, then we know that they're solid. And that's what this fight holds for the both of them. Now, who is faster? Who is more athletic and stronger? Clearly that goes to Romero. who is younger, who also has speed, that goes towards Robert Whitaker. We saw that Robert Whitaker is totally capable of making contact with his opponent. He made Sosa look old and slow and one-dimensional. Now, we all know that the Soldier of God is not one-dimensional. He has his wrestling, he has his speed, he is an athlete, and he's a natural freak of nature. So we know that he's not one-dimensional. Okay? But, again, he is 40 years old, and that cannot be ignored. So we have a fighter who is 28 years old going up against someone who is 40 years old. For those reasons, this is what I call a pick'em. All right? I am rooting for the Soldier of God, but this is clearly a pick'em, and I won't be surprised if Romero dominates from start to finish and wins the interim title. At the same time, I won't be surprised if Robert Whitaker pulls off a tremendous upset and wins the interim title as well. I just have to feel out the first couple of rounds, or maybe even the first couple minutes, to see who's on and who's doing their thing more, and then I will probably be able to I would probably have a better feel of who's going to win by the beginning of the second round, middle of the second round. But right now, it's a pick'em. I'm rooting for the Soldier of God, but again, this is a real tight one. It's a great fight. It's a great co-main event. It has the potential to be the fight of the night if Amanda Nunes don't knock Valentina into oblivion with her right hand and her head kick. Again, Shevchenko is not a pushover. Before I go, I do want to talk about Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, because we all know that the build-up to August 26th has really not even begun. I mean, they haven't had a press conference yet. And I think that Floyd Mayweather is playing it by ear because he's aware of Conor McGregor antics, and he doesn't want Conor to blow it because Conor has the potential to absolutely blow this, and he doesn't want that to happen. And I understand why Floyd is kind of being like a big brother here and just doing this thing. I mean, Floyd looked like he's on point. I mean, some of his workout videos, it would be like he's fighting the number one contender of the welterweight division of boxing. Okay, that's how he's training, and it's amazing to see that he still have it. Wow. Okay, and so he's a freak of nature. However, I do want to comment on a couple of things. I saw a video earlier on YouTube where Dana White stated that if people are laughing at the Conor McGregor Floyd fight, then they don't know fighting. The reason why fight fans and fight experts are laughing is because they know about fighting, and they know that a mixed martial artist, their type of boxing is totally different than the sweet science of boxing. And so it's no nothing personal against the UFC, but people are just not fooled, and they know it's going to be a circus. It's going to be a sideshow, and Conor McGregor is going to dance his way to $100 million, whether it's given out to him in a big bulk or over a few years, because we don't really know the deal that the UFC made with Conor McGregor. It can be, you get this amount for fighting Floyd, and then we divvy out the amounts as you keep your 4-fight contract, the 4 fights left on your contract with us. If you don't, then you disavow that money. So, and Dana is a businessman, and WME is also about business. So I'm sure that they attached those last four fights on Conor's contract with this Mayweather fiasco. But it's just funny how they're trying to finagle money out of the public's pocket. I mean, anybody wants to see it. It's just whether someone wants to pay $100, and it may be one of those things where someone in a neighborhood just rents it for $100, charges everyone in the neighborhood $10 to come in and watch it, and they watch the fight, and they get the $100, but just not from as many people. I don't think that the pay-per-views are going to break the numbers. I really don't. I think, it's going to be over 100, maybe 1.5, but I don't even think it's going to come close to the Pacquiao, world record setter. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that, it's just a sideshow. I think the undercard is going to be a lot better than the main event. The main event is just a show. It's an event. It's not a boxing fight. However, I do want to restate what I said when this fight was first signed about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And I want to talk about Tim Hagee. Tim Hagee is a former MMA fighter who went into boxing. I believe he won his first bout and then he lost his next 3, and then his death fight was his 5th pro fight. Now, he got knocked into oblivion, laying wrong. I think he went brain dead, and then he died. And this is someone trying to be part of a sport that takes people a lifetime to master. You can't master it by signing a contract and then training for 3 weeks, 3 out of the next 6 weeks, and think you're going to compete with lifetime boxers. And it was just a shame to hear that he died. Now, in the shadow of this, we have another MMA fighter going into boxing against one of the greatest boxers of all time. And I said this before, because the media is hyping this up, the UFC hyping it up, boxing is hyping it up. Conor McGregor calling over sparring partners, famous sparring partners. Even what's his name? Paulie M has been called over to Ireland. He hasn't accepted yet because he's trying to, get as much money out of this as he possibly can. But even with all that, Conor's at a grave disadvantage, and I've said this already. Conor's life may in fact be in danger here, because you cannot learn what you need to be safe in a boxing ring in a year or 2 years. You just can't learn it. In the sport of MMA, you can lose and win in many ways. Strikes with your feet, knees, hands, elbows, grabbing, pulling, back elbow, back fist. In boxing, there are 4 ways. Let me count that for you. 1, 2, 3, 4 ways that you can, as they call it in MMA, strike. You have what's called, the jab. Then you have what's called the hook. All right. Then you have what's called the uppercut. And then, of course, you have that, that power shot with your dominant hand. So there's 4 ways that you can win. That you can hit an opponent in boxing. The rest of your skills is predicated on movement, and it's a different type of movement than MMA. And when you're uncomfortable, naturally the human body goes back to what it's used to. Like, for example, Conor McGregor can overthrow in MMA just to set up a head kick or a body kick. or he can slow somebody down by delivering a roundhouse kick. All right, that's not there for him in boxing. So anyway, I think you're getting my point here. Well, I'm going to get going. I'm going to log this on to the website. Once again, this is the Psycho MMA fan, Big Mike, coming at you. I will be giving you my reactions of the Ultimate Fighter finale Friday after the fight card. And then I'll be giving you my reaction after the fight card for UFC 213. Until then, God bless, be safe, and we will talk again soon.